I was told often, you'll never do the cover of Vogue, you'll never work with certain photographers, you'll never work with certain celebrities. It kind of was make or break, and I guess I made it.
This episode of Networth and Chill is brought to you by Marshalls. I love sharing new tips on how to make the most of your money. And one of the biggest misconceptions about looking good is that you have to spend a lot. And I'll be real with you, I want those high quality items that'll last, but I'm also on the hunt for the best deal. How can I dress in brand name on-trend pieces without maxing out my credit cards? My go-to place to do that is Marshalls, where I know I can get the brands I love at 20 to 60% off retail prices. Visit a store or head to marshalls.com to see what good stuff you can find today. What's up, rich friends? Welcome back to an episode of Networth and Chill with me, your rich BFF, Vivian Tu. And today we are going to talk about a topic that is very important: special girls like me, aka people with perfect hair. In fact, I have been asked multiple times if I have extensions, and I would like to set the record straight. I do not. This is my hair. But all jokes aside, the hair care industry was valued at $91.2 billion in 2023 and is expected to grow to $105 billion by 2028. So it's clear that people are taking this industry very seriously. Hair is 22% of the global beauty market and second only to skincare. So people are spending big bucks, and today we need to chat with an expert who is not only an iconic celebrity hairstylist, but also the global creative director for Color Wow since its inception, a global ambassador for Shark Beauty, and a global color ambassador for Schwarzkopf. I got it all. He has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry, including Kim Kardashian, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, Jennifer Lopez, and so many more. Everyone, please welcome the king of hair, Chris Appleton.
What an introduction. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to start this podcast off very fun. You have had some amazing haircuts yourself.
Yeah.
But I want to hear about one that was not so amazing. Have you ever gotten a haircut that you were like, I look like I went to a butcher shop, and how much did you pay for that haircut?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few interesting haircuts over the time. I've had a few like disasters. I think everyone can relate to a hairdresser.
Okay, yeah, of course.
But I've also had some very interesting haircuts. There's one particular haircut that lives on the internet and haunts me to this day. And a few people that like know me, they're like, you know, if you do that, I'm going to get that picture out. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was like a Star Trek haircut. You know, it's kind of like a blunt bang. I think I was going through my very creative stage.
Yeah.
I'm a stylist. I'm very creative. And I had this kind of like blunt bang. You know, it kind of gives me like a beam me up Scotty kind of vibe.
The Edna mode.
Yeah, you know that haircut that every kid had?
Yeah, coconut.
Like unwillingly, but you know, like their moms did it basically. I think I kind of decided to have that. It was very interesting. Disaster-wise, I have obviously been blonde.
You look great as blonde.
Is serious business. Yeah, but you know, like it really is a commitment. And the thing is, what a lot of people don't understand about being blonde is like if you do push it too far, it's not to say like your hair will be a bit dry or you get a few splends. Like it can come off, you know, your hair can literally snap off at the root. Now, if you have like long hair or whatever, you know, that's pretty stressful. Even my hair being short, there's been a few times where people are like, I can do it. I can get it white for you. And I'm like, yeah, but I also want it to stay on my head. Because what most people don't know is after white, like basically once your hair kind of lifts to like yellow, then pale yellow, after pale yellow, the hair disintegrates. So basically that's when the cut off. So it's such a fine line between getting like a nice white platinum and having no hair. It really is that like, you know, it's scary stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had a few times people are like, I can do it. And I'm like, oh my God, my hair just, I had to shave it off. So yeah, I've had a few interesting
What's the most you've ever spent on a hair treatment or haircut?
Probably when I had my hair done, I think it was like, maybe it was like $1,000. I think it was, that was with the tip as well.
Okay,
and I will say it's because they bleached it and it was longer.
So
I was
like
in the salon for like 7 hours.
Yeah, okay.
And also like, I know them and I know how much work went into it. So I was, you know, wanting to be, but normally I don't usually pay just because I'm in the industry.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have a question. Were some of those bad haircuts or bad hair treatments the reason you wanted to become a stylist? Or how did you decide you wanted to get into the hair business?
No, it's an interesting story. I think at school, I'm one of 5 kids. So I come from Middle England.
Yeah.
One of 5 kids. And growing up, we were pretty...
Which of the 5?
I'm the middle.
Oh.
I know. I don't know what that means.
Do you
but
love
people
that?
Usually have that reaction. I'm okay with it because it's all I've ever known.
Yeah, okay.
But I was kind of the underdog. Like, the boys did very masculine jobs.
Yeah.
Played professional football, be a mechanic. The girls did girly jobs. I was kind of like, I wasn't that great at school, and little did I know at the time, but I was dyslexic. So it wasn't through laziness, but I just didn't understand. Like, the teacher would write stuff down on the board and expect me to memorize it, and it just didn't mean anything. And I remember the first time I kind of felt good is I did my mum's hair, because I was quite artistic. I used to paint and stuff. Did my mum's hair, and I was like, stand up and look in the mirror, and she did. And I was like, oh, wow, look, you get to make people feel something. Like, I loved that ability to make people react.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, wow, I love that. I also loved acting and doing drama. And I had an interesting experience with that. And 360, I ended up kind of focusing on hair. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm good at. I'll be the best at it. And I remember at like 9 years old thinking that. I got a job in the salon when I was 13, and I just was hungry to be good at something. I didn't want to be told I wasn't good enough. Like, the teacher used to have like a pen and put red lines all through my work, and my mom would have to come in and say, you know, you can't do that. It makes him feel like he's stupid, and he's not. He just has a different way of understanding. Obviously now we understand dyslexia, but at the time it wasn't recognized. And it was just like, you either learn this way or you don't and you're stupid or lazy, you know. So I think hair really was a way of me proving that I was good at something. And I think the determination of maybe being told that I wasn't good, like, made me want to be the best at it.
Oh, I love that underdog story. And also, how wonderful that your mom was so encouraging. And in a time where, like, a lot of parents would have just been like, why aren't you trying hard enough?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But let's talk about those early years in the salon where you're really trying to, like, start your career and build it out. Like, what was that like? Did you feel like you were making enough money in that salon to make ends meet? Were you really excited? Did it feel like the most money you had ever made? Or what was that like?
I think a lot of people have this kind of expectation of, like, Chris Appleton. So they'll see me on social media and they'll be like, okay, you good looking guy, like, he looks like he's in great places working with these, like, famous women. And, you know, people forget that social media is a very small part of really what you are in the bigger picture. And I think a lot of people don't really know my story. They don't know the build. And I think, you know, when I started in a salon at the age of 13, we got paid £1 an hour, which is $1 an hour.
Oh my
gosh. Know, and it wasn't simple work. You know, you were scrubbing skirting boards, you was bleaching skirting boards with bleach and toothbrush, you know, sweeping hair and cleaning, and a lot of cleaning, honestly. You were kind of like a cleaner at the time. But I do remember the first day I stood in the salon. I remember women coming in, hair would be tied back, looking kind of, shoulders would be flat. And I knew when they walked out, I had this feeling. I can remember seeing, God, they walk differently. Have you ever had your hair blown out? You walk out the salon, you feel like everyone's looking at you.
I'm doing the
Tina.
You're flipping. I'm like this.
Yeah, you're like, oh, God.
I look good.
Totally. Yeah, you feel like everyone's looking, even if they're not. It's just that feeling you get where you're like, yeah, I'm hot. You know, like,
I am who I think I am.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that. And I remember now exactly where I was standing. I remember thinking to myself, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be good at. I want to be the best at it. And I just got to work. And, you know, £10 a day. So what was it? It was like £50 a week. It really wasn't enough to live on. But it really wasn't about the money for me. I was just determined to be good. And then it was when I kind of got on the floor, and there was different ways of earning more money. And, you know, then once I kind of got into the salon, I was like, what else is there? So then I started working outside the salon, looking at editorial stuff, like magazines, and just looking at all the different options you could do. And it was kind of my journey.
I have a very interesting question because I recently learned this. Can you explain how hairstylists in salons get paid? Because I didn't know that hairstylists have to rent their chair.
Yeah, well, it's different for me because I was in England. I think that's changed over time. But at the time I was employed, but I think now people rent a chair and then they pay like a percentage of every client they do to, like, the owner or whatever. I think the hairdressing industry has changed a lot over the years, especially since COVID. It changed a lot. A lot of people work from home now. They have their own salons. I think it changed the whole industry a lot. I think also a lot of women, a lot of men as well, also realized how important the hairstylist was. Because, you know, everyone was like, damn, I didn't even know my natural hair looked like this. Or,
and they didn't like it.
Totally, you know, and I think, you know, for me, like, good hair can make it big difference. Even if you don't have a full face of makeup or a new outfit, I think when your hair's good, you can feel really great
confidence.
about yourself. Totally. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit. You start working in editorial. How are you growing your client list? I'm certain you're not just banging down people's doors, or are you?
No, I mean, I didn't even live in London. I lived in a small town called Leicester. I would travel on the train. It was like a 2-hour journey. And I remember I used to have to try and hide from the conductor because I didn't have enough money for the train tickets. So we used to try and hide. And it was expensive. And I'd go up and down London because I understood there was this sort of world outside of hair, editorial. So anyone that doesn't know what editorial is, like magazine work, fashion week. And it's a different type of hair. When you go to a salon, you have a haircut or a hairstyle and you expect it to last like a 6-week period. When you're doing like fashion hair, it's a fashion show that lasts 6 minutes. It's a very different type of hair. Like editorial hair might be just like you see the cover of Vogue and there'll just be like a piece of hair laid across the eye and it looks really romantic. But in real life, you'd push that hair off your face because it's tickling and it's actually really funny. Obviously, I work with Kim a lot and I always say to her when we're on a photo shoot, I'll just get this little piece of hair and I'll pull it across her eye and she always kind of blows it out the way. And I'm like, no, but it's supposed to be there. But it's a natural reaction. If something's in your eye, you push it out of the way. But it's a whole different philosophy of learning a different type of hair. And I remember people were very, I got a lot of pushback. People were like, no, you're a salon hairstylist. I was told often, you'll never do the cover of Vogue. You'll never work with certain photographers. You'll never work, with certain celebrities because, you do you do salon hair and that's really stay in your lane. But with every no, I just was like, all right, I'll show you. I don't know. I don't know if it was something in me as a kid being told that I wasn't, and I knew I wasn't lazy. Like I was just dyslexic, but no one knew, but I knew I wasn't lazy. I knew I had a brain. I knew I was creative and clever in different ways, but it was always this way. I was like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. And I remember eventually I joined an agency in London and I was so excited. I was like, okay, guys, this is going to be the beginning. And, really had big ambitions and big dreams. And they kind of laughed at me and they were like, yeah, okay, kind of, stay in your lane. And
how did that make you feel?
Oh, I mean, it was so... you feel so alone. You feel so alone and so like, does anyone really believe in me? Like, I mean, is this ever going to be, did you ever stop fighting? I feel like, do you ever have to stop pushing? Is anyone ever going to give you a break? And I remember every step of the way, I just used it as an opportunity. I remember doing a TV show, in hair. It was like a competition in hair and I won that. And I just used every opportunity as a leaping board into the next thing. So I just tried to maximize opportunity. So even if I was like assisting at Fashion Week, I'd be, traveling to Paris on a plane on the Eurostar. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I would have to stay way outside of Paris in it was like a brothel. I remember that it was like, it was like this sink in the room. There was like stains in the bed, but it's all I could afford. And it was all just to assist at the show. And I'd have to be there at 4 a.m. I'd have no sleep. And I'd just be passing pins. It's not as though you get to go and be glamorous and do, hair. You'd literally be passing pins to someone and you'd be privileged to do that. But I would just make sure I was like, I'm going to watch what that head stylist does and why they are they are who they are. Like, what do they do? How do they handle themselves? How do they talk to people? What are they doing? I was just like a sponge. I just absorbed. And then, each opportunity I just tried to maximize. So then I started to look at, okay, I've done editorial. I saw this like celebrity world. Celebrities in the UK, it's sort of a smaller kettle of fish at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was working with a makeup artist and she worked with Rita Ora and she was like, Rita's looking for a new hairstylist and she linked us together and I worked with Rita and then I kind of stayed with her for the next 2 years. That was sort of hand in hand at the time of social media and Instagram. So I just started just posting the hairstyles. I was always doing something different. It was kind of before like Kylie Jenner, when she used to do all the different wigs. It was kind of just a bit before that. So we were like doing short hair and long hair and then she'd have it pink one day, but then it'd be back blonde the next. And people were kind of, I think, fascinated by how she was known for her style and changing it up.
Yeah.
And I got a call one day from J-Lo's team and she asked for me to do a hair for the Vegas show.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I just remember thinking, and this is to anyone out there that does feel like they're not recognized, like the power of social media. J-Lo didn't follow me at the time. She didn't follow me for years after, but people look. How often do you fall onto someone's page and you don't really know how you got on there, but you end up kind of going through their page, seeing what they do.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, I don't know, sometimes we're all a bit of a Scrooge about the follow button. We don't like to follow unnecessarily. But, we look. And I always say, your social media is your portfolio of, you and your life and the story you want to tell. And I remember thinking like, well, initially I was thinking, oh, this is fake. You know, this must be, how would J-Lo know who I am? Like she's in Hollywood, the land of dreams. And I'm in Leicester, which is not the land of dreams. You know, it's a very different experience. So I kind of thought, well, that's nice. And I kind of just left it. I was maybe too scared of it. And then they reached out again. And I remember thinking to myself like, well, you know, I kind of came this far. I just turned 30 and I was like, I know everything. Like I got a degree in color, like a color degree. I was an extension specialist. I, you know, learned editorial hair. I learned a fashion week hair. I did the Sassoon courses. I kind of like anything I felt like I didn't know. I wanted to know it. So I was like, well, maybe it's kind of now or never. Like maybe I do it. Maybe I go to America. But I had like an apartment in the UK and in London, and it was like a furnished apartment. I'd just done it, and I just thought, you know what? Fuck it. Are you allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course, please.
Well, I just thought, fuck it, I'm just going to go. Like, if I don't do it now, I probably never will. Like, I could always find an excuse. Yeah. I could always find like, oh, I've got this apartment, or there's this. And I was like, maybe I just go and I just see. Let's just see if I could do this.
What's the worst thing that could happen?
Totally right. So I packed 2 suitcases. I left everything. I left my life. I left the whole life in London, and I traveled to the US and arrived very, you know, hopefully. And I really relate to, you know, that song by Miley Cyrus. What is
Hopped
it?
off the plane at LAX.
You know, with a dream. And it kind of did. I just kind of came with a dream and a hope, and like hoped the phone would ring. Yeah. And it didn't.
Oh, that's not where I thought that statement was going.
No, it didn't for a while. And, you know, it was a good sort of 4 months, and I'd spent my money. And I remember ringing my friend. I'd be in tears and I'd be like, God, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, and everything in America felt so big. Like, supermarkets were big. The roads were big. Everything's so much bigger in America. The food, the size of the food, everything was just bigger. And I was like, how am I ever going to do this? And I eventually got a call from Christina Aguilera's team to do her hair for The Voice. A makeup artist recommended me. They knew my work with Rita. They knew I was in town. And I turned up to The Voice feeling, you know, terrified. Yeah. Because it's Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
She's
Christina Aguilera.
huge. She's iconic. You know, she's done all this stuff. And I remember ringing my friend before I went because I was really nervous. And she's actually the mother of my kids. I keep saying she's my friend. She's actually the mother of my children. Yeah. And we've always had a close relationship.
That's amazing.
We'd separated at the time, but, you know, she was still my person. And, you know, I ring her. She's like, well, look, Chris, put it this way. If you don't make this work, you're going to have to come home. Like, can't continue to live like this. I'm also a dad. So I have 2 kids that I was supporting. You know, it's like a lot of responsibility. And I turned up at The Voice and I was like, okay, I had these like 4 hairstyles in my head that I could do. I'm like, okay, I could do this or I could do that. Like, I'm prepared. So there's 3 hours for glam usually. Yeah. It's a long process. So the makeup artist went into the trailer. I'm sitting outside. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait. Maybe she needs a minute. So an hour went by and I'm like, cool, like, I'll be ready to go in soon. And
you were supposed to have been in there.
Well, no, like I just was waiting outside. I really didn't know what was going on. Yeah. So you don't want to ask too much. You want to fit in. So another hour went by, and I'm like, oh well, maybe she's just the hair's probably done and it's nice, or maybe she has a stylist and I'm just a backup. I don't know. So then 20 minutes before the live show, they asked me to go into the trailer. And I'm like, okay, well, like, obviously when I go in, this is going to have a hair. It's going to be nice, right? It's going to be nice, isn't it? Because there's only 20 minutes for a live show. No, her hair's going to be pretty. Probably just brush it and she'll go out. Yeah. Like, what else can I do in 20 minutes? Like, God wouldn't do this to me. Surely. You know, like, this is my one chance in the US. Yeah. So I go in, and unfortunately, it wasn't done. And it was, you know, bleached, it's bleached hair, you know, it takes a bit of work, you know, and get it into place. And she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, ooh, well, I'd like to have 3 hours of, anyway, whatever, we'll. And I remember, like, thinking, you know what, I think she would look really good with this, like, Hollywood wave. And a quick way of doing it, I was thinking I could put a wig on and make it look really pretty. And the color was, like, slightly cooler. And I was like, I think this would look really good. She had a bit of root at the time. I was like, it would be a good way of covering that up. So she was like, yeah, I don't like wigs. And I was like, oh, of course you don't like. Why would you like anything I've got to do or say, or I should just go home? And I was like, I remember like have you ever had that feeling where you feel like everything is closing around you
Yes.
and you just feel so small?
Yeah.
And then it was the strangest thing. It was like, I'm not a spiritual person, but it was like the clouds parted. And I remember just like hearing this voice in my head, and it was like, if you don't make this work, like you're gonna have to go home. Like, and I remember thinking, fuck this. Like, I didn't come this far to come this far. Like, I know
Kim.
what I'm doing. Like, I know what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You've never tried one of my wigs. And I was like, you know, so I got one out of the bag and I put it on her head. And she was like, oh. And I was like, what's the worst you can say? No. And like, she was like, oh. And the stylist kind of looked over and she was like, well, I like it. And she was like, all right, well, and by that time, it was probably like 12 minutes left before that. So I'm burying all this hair and extensions under this wig. You know, she had loads of hair extensions. And so I'm like putting it under this wig. And she runs off and goes on the show. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, damn, the rest of America is going to have an opinion on this. And, you know, again, it was at the time where people comment. A lot of people watch these shows. And if something don't look right, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, and they're commenting. So, I remember there was like a little break, and I was very nervous, and I remember sort of trying to stay out of her way. And she was talking to someone, and she looked over at me, and she just went, everyone likes your wig. And then she turned back and carried on talking the conversation over. And in that moment, I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I did it. That was all I needed. And it was that one moment, and it's probably something that's gone with me throughout my whole career, where I could have very easily had a very different story and not be sitting here now.
Yeah.
In that moment was really a make or break of like, am I going to just believe everything I've ever been told, which is you're not good enough? You know, you don't really know. And, you know, we all have that kind of imposter syndrome. And I'm like, oh, she knows I'm just Chris from Leicester. Like, she knows that I'm that middle child. She knows that I'm dyslexic. You know, all these things wrap through your head. And it really takes a lot to sometimes just sort of ignore the noise and do it anyway. Because a lot of the time we create the noise in our head ourselves. It's our own shit. You know, it's that stuff that we've held on to as kids and had heard from, you know, kids at school or teachers that didn't understand. You know, like you hold on to this and it kind of carries in it. It takes years to shed it. But in that moment, you know, unfortunately I have, you know, someone great in my life who always believed in me and still does and was fundamental in, you know, me being, I mean, I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for her, but because she believed in me even when I didn't.
Yeah.
But it really was that moment of like, it kind of was make or break, and I guess I made it, you know, in that moment. And I think I just then continued the journey, and it kind of was like a bit of a snowball effect. It did happen quite fast. I kind of worked with Christina, and then I worked with Katy Perry, and then I worked with Adele and J-Lo and then Kim and Ariana. It kind of just rolled on quite fast, just because when there's a new guy in town, I'm like, oh, I'll try them. And it was just at a time where Ariana wanted a new hairstylist, and then, you know, I eventually got to work with J-Lo on the right project, and then someone recommended me to Kim because she wanted to try something. It was just kind of one of those, you know, and I guess if you go in and you're good, and everyone's like, oh, it's because he's British, it's because he's got an accent, it's because he's tall, you know, at the end of the day, that gets you so far. But if you're not good at what you do, like
you're people are not going to get
booked you. But yeah, exactly. Most people can get in the door once, but they don't, you know, get called
You never
back.
get the second date.
Totally. So I think I absolutely, I put the work in. Like I said, most people, like I'll take Kim Blonde. People don't know I've got a degree in color. They're like, he doesn't know what he's doing. You know, we live in a world now where people love to criticize or find fault in something. But, you know, I definitely put my money where my mouth is because I do the work, you know, and if I don't believe I'm the best. I just believe I will always do my absolute best. And if I don't know, I'll find out a way how. You know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, rich friends, you know I love to talk about the habits of rich people, and one thing they all have in common is that they find ways to keep their money. That's something my partners at Marshalls can help you with, because rich people look the part. They're wearing high-quality brand name clothes, but what you might not realize is that they didn't pay full price. That's how they're staying rich. And while you're on your way to getting rich, you can get the same good stuff without breaking the bank by shopping at Marshalls. Head to your local Marshalls or visit Marshalls.com to shop their ever-changing selection of high-quality, on-trend merchandise.
I'd love to talk a little bit about that first experience. Obviously, you are oftentimes referred to as Kim Kardashian's hair guy. You are her one. And people love that. What was the first experience like? And were you nervous? Like, How has that become a part of your journey?
You make it sound like I'm losing my virginity.
No.
How was your first experience? All right. Well, obviously, Kim is amazing. And, the Kardashians have an amazing following. And I feel very flattered that people, say you're Kim's hair guy. And I have so much respect. I feel so grateful to have seen what she's created.
Yeah.
When I met Kim, she was doing the show, and then I've seen her become a lawyer and, create Skims. And then, now she's doing the acting.
Yeah.
And, she has always inspired me to really, when people would love to say, oh, well, what was the famous thing they used to say? Like, what do you even do? But she's like
she does
amazing, entrepreneur, businesswoman, a mother, she's a wonderful person to see blossom. And I've seen a very different side to her, a very sort of personal side. And, I think she's a fantastic person. And she's always been incredibly supportive, and she's really, been an amazing in my career. So, I remember the first time I met Kim, I was, again, kind of incredibly nervous, but I will say there's something about when I go to work and I do my job, I'm there to provide a service.
Yeah.
So there's always something that just kind of kicks in. It's like if I go on TV, if I'm going live on the Today Show or the Drew Barrymore Show, like it doesn't matter the chaos that's going on before or how nervous you feel. There's something that always, and I'm not sure what it is, but there's something that just kind of kicks in when the camera goes or when I step into my job. Where I just kind of get into, it's almost like a role. Like I'm there to perform a job, and I want to always make that person look their best. But I think what's really important to me is that they feel their best. And it's a journey, and I kind of just get into it. I guess it's like a doctor. If you went to a doctor, they kind of will do what you'll do a consultation, and then you know what I mean. You'll go through the process. I don't know. I'm not messing around. I'm there to do a job, and I've never really forgot that. So although you get close and stuff, I'm there to.
You're always bringing
perform.
your A game.
Yeah, totally. And make that person look and feel the best. And it doesn't matter if it's Kim or Jennifer Lopez or whoever it is, or my mom, or when I used to do cancer patients in the salon, because these women that I knew really well, like strong, confident women would come in and they've lost their hair and they would be a shadow of themselves. And I remember, you kind of having to put it back together and put this person back together. Like I would literally have women say to me, like, I don't know who I am. Like I've lost my identity because they lost their hair and their eyebrows, and they looked in the mirror and they didn't recognize this thing looking back at them. And, that's how I started to work with wigs. Now I work with wigs, and, we create that as part of, the world we live in as a celebrity. People know they like to change their hair up. But back then it was just about
necessity,
and giving back someone giving their identity back. And, that's why I sort of plucked the wigs, and that's how I got good at wigs, just making them, because at the time they were very like thick and bulky. And we have something in the UK called the NHS, which is like, basically the wigs would come from the hospital. They weren't, it wasn't like fine, beautiful hair. It was like thick, almost like
plastic
fake hair. Yeah. So you'd want to make it look and feel be the best, and color techniques to make it look more natural. There's lots of little tricks you can do with wigs to make them look realistic. And these women would walk out like feeling like they could fight cancer. Like that's a superpower to be able to make someone feel that. That's not just like, oh, I like my hair today. That actually can a mental state of mind, I think, can do wonders. And if it can make you literally feel like you can fight this horrible disease, then that was amazing. All the payment I ever needed.
Yeah. I love that. Well, speaking of payment, I do want to talk a little bit about being a stylist, being in a line of work that is very focused on gigs. Yeah. So you mentioned when you moved to the US, the phone didn't ring for 4 months.
Totally, yeah.
How did you manage your money knowing that what you do is so project-based? So there might be a month where you're booked all 30, 31 days. You are raking it in, but then it's possible that the following month you don't get a single booking. How do you manage your money when that income is so inconsistent?
I've always been, my business manager says to me now, she's like, I've never known anyone save like you. And I feel like I don't save at all. I'm like, and the poor boy inside of me, like I just went to Europe and like, I booked these flights and fortunately now, like obviously I do a lot of travel. So a lot of it will be red eyes and stuff. And a lot of the time it will be business class because it kind of needs to be, because that will be your flight of sleep and then you land and go to work. So you get a bit used to that. So I was like going to Europe and I was like, fly economy, you know,
Yeah.
I can't afford to it anyway. And I'm sitting in economy, and then people are like taking pictures and they're like asking for autographs and stuff. And I'm like, it's fine. I don't mind that stuff. I think it's always flattering when people want to, you know, they feel like they know you, and you kind of forget a bit about that, but you forget the power of social media, and then you forget that you're on the show or whatever. But it was like a killer job. I think it took me like 2 days to get there because the delayed flights and stuff. And I remember talking to my business manager, and she was like, Chris, you can afford to, you know, you can go at least premium economy, you can do it, but the poor boy inside me still is always there.
Yeah.
And I think I've always just been, I'm always so grateful for any opportunity and any experience, but I've always been, I think, very good with my money in terms of trying to save, because I always have responsibilities. Like I have 2 kids, and you know, I've always had to provide for them. You know, I've had a mortgage since I was like 19. I had kids when I was 19. There's a whole kind of world I created, and a whole world of responsibility I created along the way. And so I think I just always, I had to make it work.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if I would. I remember like when I moved, what was I doing? I remember like I cut Tom Jones's hair. I was cutting like just like friends' hair. I would do influencers' hair just to make money.
Yeah.
Just anything I could do to make. I'm not precious, you know. I'm not like, oh, I only do.
I'm the Chris Appleton.
Yeah, I really don't give a fuck about all that, you know. And I think that's a lot of people. You know, I'd much rather go to, you know, the beach and have fun with my friends or family and have like laughter and joy than sit into some bougie restaurant. Like, I've been fortunate enough to see some amazing things, but I think for me, what's really important is like, you know, people and, you know, life's short.
Yeah.
Life's really short. And it, like, you know, I'm about making memories. So I think really in terms of money and the financial side of it, it is important. And it always has been, because as a kid, I was poor. I couldn't afford. I remember I was like, God, this is like a therapy session, but like I was like 6 or 7, and I remember England was always very grey and kind of rainy. And I remember I was sitting in my bedroom. I shared a bedroom with like my 2 brothers, and I remember looking out, and I remember thinking like, when I'm older, I don't want this life. Like I wanted a life of color. Like I wanted to be able to like, you know, to have food we didn't have food in the cupboards. Like we were poor, you know, and I just had aspirations to see a life of color. And I think I always just, you know, when I say color, it was like I say, very gray and very dull. And I was like, I want to see the world. There's more out there. I know there's more out there than this small town. And I think sometimes I'm kind of dancing around, but that's one of the things that I wanted to do for my kids. And I think one of the best gifts you can give them is to get them outside of the hometown they were brought up in, just to see what's out there. Because sometimes we become so conditioned around the people around us and what we're told to do. Or I think there's nothing better than getting out and experiencing a bit of life. Even if you go back, I think you come back more experienced. And, you know, as a dad, that's always something I wanted to do for my kids. So bringing them out to America 2 years ago was kind of a big moment and scary for them. I moved to America when I was 13. It was scary then, but they were like, you know, 17 and 19, you know, and I'm incredibly proud of where they're at now and their journey. And again, as a dad, that's like so rewarding for me. But I think just always having that responsibility has always made me work hard. It doesn't matter what I have to do. If I have to, you know, work at a coffee shop, I'd work at a coffee shop. I'd do whatever to make ends meet. I'm not afraid of working hard.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not afraid of it.
Is instilling financial literacy so that your kids can be better off than you really important to you?
Yeah, and I think they're really grounded. My kids have seen the sacrifices I've made, like moving to America.
Yeah.
You know, they sacrificed time with their dad, but they saw my passion and my drive. And you know, if I was working 20-hour shifts, it was what I did whatever I needed to do to make ends meet. It's funny, you know, when you have some success or you work with some people think like, oh, you know, they've got it good, but I'm 41 now. Like I've worked my whole life to get to a point where I can, you know, have a lifestyle that, you know, I've worked for. And I think I've, with my kids, always tried to inspire them to follow their dreams and just to work hard. And, you know, you have to go above and beyond, I think, to be good at something. I think even if you have a natural ability, I think it really takes hard work and dedication to crack it. Because even if you think about the best singers, sometimes the best singers like in the world, it doesn't mean they become pop stars. You know, you've ever been like seeing people in the street and they're singing and stuff, you go, wow, they've got an amazing voice. I wonder, but it's not always about, a lot of it is about drive and ambition and commitment and persistence. You know, it takes, people love to say no. Like I got no's all the time. You know, I remember being told like, you will never do the cover of Vogue. Because I remember doing this sort of, I wrote this little book out of the dreams I always wanted to do. And one of them was to do the cover of American Vogue. And people would laugh. You know, people actually go as far as to laugh and be like, you're a salon hairstylist. You would never. It's not awful. It's just life. It's just people. Yeah. People sometimes are that way. And I remember being like, I'll show you. And, you know, I did the cover of American Vogue. Like I think 3 years ago, I did the cover of American Vogue twice in the same year with two of the most famous women in the world. You know, now, fortunately, I had the opportunity to do lots of different covers of Vogue. But, you know, each and every time I'm like, damn, remember when I was told that I would never get the ability to do this? And then in between, people don't see, but they don't see the grinding and the blood, sweat, and tears you put into making that happen. They just see like, oh, he's lucky he got to do the cover. They don't see the work. And I guess it was always on the mood board. It was always on and I think it's really important to have like, you know, a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal. Because before you know it, you get there. Yeah. And I've never wanted to stand still. Even at where I'm at in my career now, it's evolved so much. Like, I want to evolve. I want to grow. I want new opportunities. And I think it's really important to stay excited, you know, about what you do. I never want to wake up and go to work and feel like, oh, I got this. I know what I'm doing. It's just not who I am.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to know the next, I guess, iteration of Chris. Obviously, you started as a stylist, but now you are global ambassador for some of the biggest companies in the hair care space. Schwarzkopf, Color Wow, Shark. Like, how did that happen? Did they approach you? Did you approach them? You know,
it's interesting. Interesting sort of stories. Like when I started working with Color Wow, no one knew who they were. Right. No one. You know, they were known for
my stylist this morning used some, and we talked about you. We were like, oh, yes.
And it makes me so much joy. I mean, people stop me in the streets all the time. I love your product. Like, oh, I was at the airport. I've just had my suitcase emptied out because it was overweight. It was all full of your products. And, you know, it brings me so much joy to see people loving, you know, what we create. But Gail Federici, who owns Color Wow, had seen many books. She looked at many different hairstylists to work with, and she just had a good eye. She created John Frieda. So John Frieda was huge. She sold it back in the day and in its peak, and you know was incredibly successful from it. And then she decided to make Color Wow, and she was looking for an ambassador. And people used to send her people all the time. And I'm kind of repeating her story, so I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but she said she saw mine and she loved what I was doing. You know, do you remember when I was putting like the hoops in Ariana's hair or, you know, the different pony or just different things that were like.
You were doing stuff people weren't doing.
Exactly. You know, and she was like, this guy's got something, you know, he's got something. So I remember we met and I remember one of the first conversations I said to her, I said, you remind me of the woman from Devil Wears Prada. Because she was very sort of stern. She was a little standoffish. She was kind of testing me a little bit. But, you know, she deep down has a heart of gold. And, you know, our relationship is fantastic. And over the years, it's been like kind of like a crazy family of different ideas. But I think the heart of it is it's a family. It's about people that want to create, you know, problem, solution, solved problem. But, you know, we want to solve problems for women's hair care. So, you know, the products that we've created have, again, had blood, sweat, and tears put into it. And when I first started, no one used it. But over the time now, you know, I feel like it's in every stylist kit. I see it in salons. I see it, you know, in people's bathrooms. It's so amazing to have been a part of creating that. And different moments, you know, like the Dream Coat was at the time where I was creating Kim's, you know, long, straight, really glossy, shiny hair. And, you know, it kind of, Dream Coat is this magical product that kind of changes the texture of hair. And people are like, how do you get it so shiny? And that was what I was using. So these moments kind of just, I don't know, it kind of works. But it takes, it's been like 7 years. It doesn't happen overnight. And I remember at the time I was asked to go in contract with a competitor, like a big, well-known competitor who was very established. And it would have definitely had a lot of glory attached to it. But I've always liked going for the underdog. I really love because I love being a part of it. If I'd have gone with that other contract, I can't say who it was, but like if I'd have gone with them, I'd have just been I'd just been a face of the brand. I wouldn't have been part of the formulas. I wouldn't have been part, because I'd be like, you know, we need this, or this is what I need. This is what I use. This is what I want. you know, we would kind of be together at creating these products and bringing the magic and creating the story, which, you know, worked and people sort of felt like they were a part of. They felt they were a part of the family. And I think that was really important to me, like the authenticity. It's how I work. I think it's how I've been good at what I do. It's because you know, it's not about just creating good hair. It's about making people genuinely feel good about themselves. When people genuinely, it doesn't matter if I cut someone's hair off short and everyone loves it in the room, but that person doesn't, they're not going to be able to go on a red carpet and stand tall, stand confidently. And I know that. So I think like really channeling into making people feel their best self never goes out of fashion. And I think that works with products and creating a brand as well.
And now that you have your styling business, your ambassadorship, I mean, you're a celebrity in your own right. Like, what part of your business are you most excited about? And is it your biggest moneymaker?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of evolved into becoming an entrepreneur in my world and like in business. I think I'm really excited about educating people about the journey and about, you know, and I want to give back and help people that were in similar situations to me, and give them my knowledge in, you know, different forms of education. But also outside of that, I've really evolved and enjoyed evolving into doing TV. So I'm part of Drew Barrymore's team, and she, again, I went on once and they liked me and it worked. And now I'm, you know, part of the family.
You always close on the second date, third date, fourth date.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's about connecting.
Yeah.
If you know, think about the Drew Barrymore show, like when I go on, I think it works because people connect. People like to see what I'm doing. If I'm making someone over, or if I'm talking about a fashion segment, or if I'm talking about mental health, or whatever it is, I talk about it from experience and passionately. And I think people relate to that. So I've really enjoyed going into the TV world and unscripted, and sort of showing, I guess, a bit more about me and my journey, which people have seemed to be more interested in now. They're like, how did you get to where you got to? Tell me more. You've got two kids. You know, I think people want to know more about it. And I guess that happens over the time. People, you know, slowly you forget these numbers that follow you on Instagram. Or they're real people. Yeah. Even now, when people like stop me in the street or whatever, like, you're Chris Appleton. I'm like, oh yeah, like, you think I'm that guy on social media? You know, like you forget that. Because in a way, you just see these numbers. You forget this is real people that are invested in your life, and they're along the journey with you. So yeah, it's kind of, it's grown from just becoming a hairstylist to becoming an entrepreneur and giving back. I think that's my main goal, is to give back in different forms of inspiration and you know, taking people along the way in the journey with me, you know.
I love that. And I have a selfish question now.
Yeah, be selfish.
So there is a zillion things for hair now. There are, you know, the special shampoo, the conditioner, the clarifying thing, the toner, the, you know, the spray, the leave-in, the dry shampoo. There's a zillion things. Yeah. You are about to be stuck on a deserted island. Yeah. You get 3 things. What are you bringing?
Most important, I would probably say the Color Wow Color Security Shampoo, just because there is so many products out there. There's like thickening shampoos, there's anti-frizz shampoos, there's smooth shampoos.
Are they actually different?
Yeah, they're all different, but they all tend to contain a lot of extra ingredients. Okay. So for me, the most important part is healthy hair, healthy scalp. Now, a lot of people experience hair loss. They say to me a lot, my hair density isn't as good as it used to be. And I think we put so much crap on our hair now, so many different chemicals and stuff. You know, we are savvy with using products. For me, the shampoo is the most important part, because it should literally, you know, clean the hair and clean the scalp and do just that. A lot of other shampoos that promise to volumize or anti-frizz, they leave ingredients behind on the hair and scalp, and that can impede hair growth. Like, you know, you can basically, the hair follicle that it goes through, it gets congealed with all this extra stuff.
Like the gunk.
Exactly. So what I love about the Color Security Shampoo is it cleans the hair, cleans the scalp. So keeping it as healthy as possible, but also enabling the hair to grow through as full as possible. So the Color Security Shampoo is really important for me. Dream Coat is a game changer because it has that. It's kind of my magic product. I was part of creating it, and you know, I just love it on every texture of hair. It doesn't matter what texture of hair you get. I know I'm going to get a great result from it. And also it has that waterproof technology. And it's interesting to see so many sort of people, different brands keep trying to copy it, but it's never the real thing, you know, because it's not waterproof or it doesn't smooth the hair, whatever. So that's definitely a favorite. And then I would probably take well, I'm not going to have electric. I was going to say Shark, my hairdryer, but I'm not going to have electric.
No electricity.
No electricity. Then I would probably take Does this have to be hair? Is it only hair? So on a desert island, is this just hair stuff?
Okay, you can bring something else. I assumed you would want to bring 3 hair things, but yeah, you can't say a boat.
Maybe, probably like my Mason and Pearson brush. It's always been my go-to.
Yeah.
Mason and Pearson brush. It's like an old-fashioned brush, but just great to brush hair out, great to snatch hair back into a pony. It's just kind of like the brush.
Whose hair are you snatching on this island?
It's always someone. Trust me, as a hairstylist, when people know you do hair, someone's always got a question.
Yeah.
People's favorite thing is like, do you know what? Can I ask you, like, if you could do anything to my hair, what would you do? Do you know what I'm like, girl.
Okay, so if you could do anything to my hair, what would you do?
That's literally right. I think doctors get asked that all the time as well. Like, can I just ask you a quick question about this thing on my toe? And I always think every time I'm sick, I'm like, do I know any doctors? Yeah, they're my 3 things.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a quick lightning round.
Okay.
Hair trends, rich or ditch?
Yeah.
Okay. Balayage.
Rich.
Ooh, we love a balayage.
Yeah.
Why?
I just love like the low maintenance of it. And I think if it's done in like a, maybe not heavy balayage, like a light balayage, but I like that kind of sun-kissed effect you can get. And it's great for people that don't want maintenance.
Yeah.
You know, they want to keep their incorporation of their natural color.
Okay.
Or maybe it just doesn't suit them all over. Do you know what I mean? Like they want some lightness, but all over it will kind of wash them out. I think it's a nice way of kind of, if someone that doesn't want to commit too much.
Goldilocks. Okay. Wolf cuts.
Rich. I think they're hot. And layers are really in trend.
Okay.
I like hair that moves.
Okay.
Yeah, I like a wolf cut.
Bobs.
I like bobs.
You
rich.
do?
Yeah, I love a bob. Anna Wintour is iconic.
I don't. Maybe it's because I have
Anna Wintour would not be Anna Wintour without that haircut.
I feel like I have coconut hair childhood bob trauma.
Yeah.
So okay.
But a nice little like bob can be so like chic.
Okay. Super light bleach blonde.
Obviously,
rich. Yeah. I mean, look at you.
Look at the icons throughout the year. Madonna, Marilyn Monroe. Like, it's just iconic. Marilyn Monroe, imagine if she had brown hair. I don't know. It's like, she probably wouldn't have been Marilyn Monroe. I don't know. It's just something very iconic. And it's probably one of the most outlandish colors you can do. It pushes the hair to the maximum of what it can do. But when done well, it can just be so iconic, you know.
Okay. Peekaboo color strands.
What the hell is that?
It's like when you've got like the 2 bang things that are a different color than the rest of your hair.
What, like a money piece?
What are the money piece?
Money piece is like the 2 pieces at the front. But they tend to be like, you know, if you've got blonde highlights, then you have the bigger chunks at the front that frame the face.
No, like if you're like a brunette and then these 2 are just blonde.
Oh, it's very 90s. Maybe ditch.
Okay, we're ditching that.
Yeah.
The feather or iridescent confetti like clip-in things that you
kind of ditch.
Yeah, we don't like that.
Tinsel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right Christmas. But.
Okay. And then the full shave on women. Like I'm talking like 2004 Britney.
Rich. Go for it. I mean, I think it's about expressing yourself. I think it doesn't, to me, it's about, hair is identity.
Yeah.
And it's however people relate to that. So I think it's the best way to describe yourself and how you want to present. So yeah, rich.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. And we only have one final question.
Okay.
But if you were to close your eyes and envision the dream life for Chris Appleton in 5 years, what do you have then that you don't have now?
I would just want to maintain that, you know, my family is healthy and that I have the opportunity to enjoy my time with them and that, you know, they are happy. I think the money or success, like it comes and goes. I think I'm really aware of that. I think I always have been. But I think when you come from having not a lot, you know, anything else is a bonus. But the really important part, I think for me, is like having my family that I love, and
you're
I'm so
such a big softie on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that life's really short, and you know, we take it for granted. My mom got cancer. You know, like I said, I'm one of 5 kids. My mom's like the heart of the family, and you know, as a kid, you know, like one day parents are probably going to die, but you don't really think about it. No one really talks about it.
Yeah.
And when she got cancer, I remember being in Miami, and it was so weird. I remember looking at my phone, and my dad said, "Can you call me?" And I just knew what he was going to say. It was the weirdest thing. And I remember he told me like she had esophagus cancer. And if you Google esophagus cancer, it basically says you're going to die. It's really sad. Kim's dad died of esophagus cancer. So I kind of knew a bit about it. And I remember thinking to myself like, oh my God, it's that time. And it wouldn't not make sense. I'm like a bit older now. They're a bit older. Like, you think that life's just going to go on forever.
Yeah.
It isn't. And you can't take the money with you. You can't take, you know what I mean? Like, people will remember you for a bit and then whatever you, because to me, the most important thing is just like happiness and the people around me being, you know, close and that belly laughter. Like, there's nothing that beats that. No money in the world. So, yeah.
I absolutely love that. Please tell everyone where they can find you.
Where can you find me? Well, what, you want my home address?
No, oh my gosh. Like
I don't really want that out there.
Your social channels, what they should check out.
My social channel is Chris Appleton 1. And that's on Instagram, TikTok. I think it's the same, Chris Appleton 1. And you can, check me out there and say hi.
Amazing. Love that. Thank you so much for being here.
My God, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you rich? Because you're a rich best friend.
Yes, of course.
Oh, good. Rich in what way?
I feel like when I was in my early 20s, I thought rich meant having the designer bag and the showy things.
Of course.
But now I feel like rich for me means optionality and being able to buy back my time so that I can choose, in the same way you said, to spend time with my now husband, to be able to go on a trip and treat my parents.
Totally.
And
how amazing is that feeling?
It's, I sent them on an all expenses paid trip for their 30th wedding anniversary.
Best feeling is to be able to share it.
Yeah.
I did that to my parents, and you know, my parents haven't even, like, if they're staying in a hotel, they would never even order room service. They've never even done that because, you know, they never.
And room service when you're tired in the robe in the bed is the best.
Totally, the best. Oh,
I love that.
Here's to that.
Ooh. Love ya. Thank you so much for being here.
I'd like to thank my partners at Marshalls for sponsoring this episode of Networth and Chill. Being responsible with your finances means taking care of future you. And thankfully, while you're looking out for the you of tomorrow, Marshalls is looking out for the you of today. They've got the latest on-trend and high-quality fashion, beauty, and home decor at a fraction of retail prices. So whether you're starting a new job, taking some overdue PTO, or just sitting at home planning your next move, Marshalls will make sure you look good doing it. Shop in-store or online to get the good stuff today. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Networth and Chill, part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. If you like the episode, make sure to leave a rating and review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Got a burning financial question that you want covered in a future episode? Write to us via podcast@yourrichbff.com. Follow Networth and Chill Pod on Instagram to stay up to date on all podcast-related news. And you can follow me at YourRichBFF for even more financial know-how. See you next week. Bye!